What's up, everybody? Jeremy Gerard from Mythic Customs here, shooting a quick video because I have something really cool to show you today. Check this out. This is an Aethon test shot. Aethon is the demon horse, Aether's horse from the upcoming Aether wave. This is one of the limited number of test shots that were made for this figure and sold recently on storehorseman.com. I just got this in hand. I wanted to show it to you to give you some of my first impressions. So first off, huge package here. I mean, obviously, this is not boxed. This is going to come in, a package that's got some of Nate Barch's amazing art. But you can see we've got the horse. There's a couple shields which clip on to, some of the straps he's got and a few swords here. Now, I've seen these horses. I've seen Aethon and the other horse, Balius, a number of times at the studio, but they were always the prototype versions. So even though I've seen them, when you're dealing with prototypes, you're not going to want to pick them up and tear them apart and things like that because they are very fragile. So this is really the first chance I had to play around with these toys. And interestingly, even though I've seen them a number of times and I knew how large they were, I still was kind of not prepared for when I popped it out of the blister here and I saw how big it was. Clearly, one of the great things about Mythic Legions toys are the paint applications. And, test shots are unpainted. By definition, they're these unpainted, one color plastic examples. So you can't get the full sense of how amazing this toy is going to be, but you can really appreciate the sculpture of this figure. And just as importantly, what I really wanted to do, one of the reasons I was excited to get this in hand was to tear it apart. And that may sound kind of crazy. That may sound like, Sid from Toy Story, that the minute I get a toy, I want to tear it to pieces. But I'm a customizer. This whole channel is about action figure customizing, Mythic Legions customizing. So I know that a lot of you, like me, have been waiting for these horses so we can figure out exactly how we can customize them. So I've got some stuff that I want to show you today. Now, I did already pull some parts off just in advance of this video so I would know what I'm dealing with. The head and the neck do come off. They are not easy to pull off. The neck is not easy. I did absolutely have to heat that up. And what I found is the head itself, let me pull this off here. So the head itself comes off and we've got a head here, we've got the neck. Now the head does come off as well. I can pull the head off here and there's just like a little peg there. The horse heads are going to be used on ogre bodies. The Shadow Equidron and the Equidron Horseman figures, that uses a head that the Horsemen have said is fully compatible with the ogre figures that it's on. You can swap out horse heads, but there's got to be some kind of adapter in those because that little peg there, that's not going to fit directly on an ogre as is. The actual, stuff around his head, that would all come off as well. But more importantly and more interestingly here, what we've got left over here, this kind of peg that we've got. So this was a big question I know a lot of people had about, can I create a Centaur with this? And then we just saw Aetherius in the Ilithia line. So that was just revealed, the first Centaur for the line. And they acknowledged that while it's a horse body on that figure, that the torso that they're using is a brand new torso on that figure. It's actually kind of a midway between the normal size 1.0 figures and the ogre scale. So I have both of those sizes right here. I have a regular size body and I actually have an ogre here that I want to look at compared to this. When I first pulled this off, by the way, this entire peg came out. Wasn't a problem. I was able to just pull the peg out of the horse's neck and pop that right back in. There's also this piece here that kind of, the way that the horse head goes on, you would see that articulation point. So true, attention to detail. They've got this piece here that really hides that articulation point. Now, the first thing I want to show you is if you are thinking about using a regular 1.0 type body, this is just a Chrono body that I had in back with a Lord Dragool head on it. This is way too small. Not only does it not fit, this ball here is actually sized to what the ogres have, not what these have. Now, I did remember them saying that Aetherius had like a 1.0, like it's kind of a 1.0 socket, so maybe that particular one has a different ball here, but I know that this horse, as is, would not fit this. Even if you modified it, it actually looks too small. It really does look almost comically small, silly. So the takeaway there is you're not going to want to use the 1.0 body pieces to make kind of like centaurs with. What about ogres? So interestingly, I also have an ogre legion builder test shot here, so I can actually combine them, kind of make a test shot centaur, right? So that's the first thing I'm going to do. I'm going to actually separate this at the waist, pull this apart here. That ball that we've got here, that is actually the same size as what we've got here on the horse. Interestingly, this piece is very, very flexible. So even though it's kind of like oval shaped and it doesn't, fit as is, it stretches so you can change the shape of it a little bit to change that point there. Now I'm going to pop this piece in, and it's not a perfect fit. It's like it pops in, but just the dimensions of the toy, it doesn't stand straight up. It's kind of leaning forward, but you can absolutely do it. You can absolutely make it work. So look at that. So this, again, is a test shot of Aethon, the demon horse, Aethir's demon horse. And what I've done is I've just popped on top of this an Ogre Legion Builder test shot. So I'm using test shots here. Obviously, when Aethon becomes available, when the brown horse Balius becomes available, and you've got ogres, if you've got a production, ogre Legion Builder, or Kurzog, Archimedes, Balthar the Tower, any of those. If you want to take a Balthar the Tower, which has got the flesh tone body, and you want to pop that on top of the brown horse Balius, you will be able to do that. You would be able to make, in kind of a cool Centaur-like character here. Now, obviously, this upper body is a lot bigger than the Centaur they're giving us. They very clearly said that body that they've developed is a halfway point between, the normal 1.0 or the 7-inch figures and these 9-inch ogres. But this doesn't look bad to me. This actually looks pretty darn cool. It's definitely burly, but the dimensions work for me. You can absolutely do this. I think it's really cool. So that answers a question for me. I keep dropping that collar piece, though. It's not pegged on by anything. That definitely answered a question for me because I really did want to know how these things were constructed, how they were going to be able to go together. I'm just psyched to finally have one of these in hand, and I'm going to have to heat this after to actually pop it back in because it is a really, really tight fit. The construction of it is just wonderful. It's, got a fair amount of articulation. The legs go up and down, so you're not going to get crazy splayed out poses, but you wouldn't expect that from really a horse anyway. There is a little bit of movement on the back over here. You do have some there, so that's nice. I like that a lot. Great figure. Hopefully this answers some questions. If you haven't gotten one of these in yet, if you're waiting for your production horses to come in from the Aethir wave, very, very cool. I'm sure you're going to have some fun playing around with these figures.